At 5:17 local time, the surface search radar behaves differently. Not a spike, not interference, a crisp, unmistakable return. On the bridge, silence settles in. At first, the track is steady, almost cautious. Then the numbers start to change. Speed rises, bearing narrows. The contact is no longer sliding across the screen. It is lining up. Surface contact, new acceleration. The words are calm, procedural, entered into the log without emotion. But steel does not pick up speed like that for no reason. The sea is calm. The horizon looks empty. To the naked eye, nothing seems different. Inside the ship, though, the systems tell another story. The contact is closing from the forward quadrant, its course now almost directly opposite the carrier's heading. The range begins to fall in quiet, merciless increments. Closest point of approach updates, then updates again. Smaller, no AIS. No reply to the first hail, no shift in course. On the flight deck, crews slow for a moment, not because an alarm has sounded, none has, not yet, but because of the timing. Everyone recognizes the instant a situation stops feeling routine and starts feeling deliberate. The contact keeps accelerating. 20 knots. Then 24. That is when the watch officer lifts his eyes from the console, not startled, just locked in. Recommend logging for unsafe maneuvering. The captain never raises his voice. He does not have to. His attention stays fixed on the display, on vectors that were never supposed to cross. A warship does not charge directly toward a carrier group without a reason. Even the careless know that. Unless the point is to be noticed. The first hail goes out over bridge-to-bridge frequencies. Clear, professional, controlled. No answer. A second call follows. Same result. Through long-range optics, the outline sharpens. Small hull. Military profile, too precise to be civilian, too intentional to be accidental. Unidentified surface contact. For the moment, that label remains. Inside the Combat Information Center, the track is elevated. Sensors shift priority. Nothing overtly hostile yet. No fire control radar. No weapons activity. But geometry has its own language. The ship is not shadowing. It is not pacing. It is moving straight into the carrier's path. The distance keeps collapsing. At this range, a mistake becomes an incident. An incident becomes international news. And some moments, once created, cannot be reversed. Still no flags, still no response, still closing. The carrier holds its course. That choice is intentional. Changing course sends a message, and messages can be read the wrong way. Sometimes the steadiest path is the clearest one, forcing the other side to explain its own actions. The contact explains nothing. On the bridge wing, binoculars rise. The hull cuts sharply through the water, its wake widening as speed climbs again. The bow lifts just enough to confirm heavy throttle. This is not drift, this is not curiosity, this is approach. A quiet order moves through the ship, never broadcast, never shouted. Stations adjust. Systems move from passive awareness to active tracking. Everything stays controlled. Everything stays within procedure. But the contact has crossed into the zone where intent matters more than capability. Another hail is ignored. Then, finally, something changes. The radar suite aboard the approaching ship comes alive. Not fire control radar, search mode, but active. The detail is logged instantly, time-stamped and preserved. Emissions tell the truth even when people do not. Passive observation is over. The other ship is now looking back, measuring, confirming what it already sees. They see the carrier, they see the escorts, and they keep coming anyway. On the bridge, the captain gives a single nod. Maintain course. Record everything. No threats, no warnings, no escalation, just a complete record. The range tightens until every movement carries meaning. The water between the two ships shrinks into a narrow strip that no longer feels neutral. This is the point where accidents stop sounding believable. The contact holds speed, still no reply. Whatever happens next will not be confusion. It will be a decision, made openly under full observation with every sensor awake. And for the first time since the contact appeared, one fact becomes obvious to everyone on the bridge. This ship did not drift into the carrier group. It came for it. At 5:24, the classification changes, not on instinct, but on data. Long-range optics resolve the surface contact with enough clarity to confirm hull shape, mast arrangement, and weapons placement. The silhouette matches a known military design, not a patrol craft, not a fishing vessel repurposed for the moment. This is steel built for exactly this purpose. Nationality confirmed, Iranian. The confirmation moves through the ship without drama. No comments, no visible reaction. Flags do not change physics, and they do not change procedure. But they do change the meaning of every second that follows. The Iranian warship does not slow. Its bow drives deeper as throttle holds steady. The wake spreads wide and self-assured. the signature of a vessel under firm control, not one wandering off course. Movement becomes visible on the forward deck. Figures reposition. Spacing changes. Hands settle where hands do not settle during routine transit. Still no response to hails. That silence is deliberate. Naval crews answer radios even during tense encounters. Silence is its own message. It suggests the signal has already been sent, and the rest will be communicated through movement, not words. Inside the Combat Information Center, the track loop tightens. Bearings update faster, range gates narrow, closest point of approach recalculates again, smaller. The Iranian ship's radar emissions sharpen, power increases, sweep rate tightens. Still not fire control radar, but closer than before. The difference is subtle, though not to trained operators. This is no longer simple observation. This is measurement. Distance, speed, alignment. They are refining the picture. On the carrier's bridge, the captain remains motionless. He watches the plot, not the ship itself. The plot does not blink. It tells the story optics cannot. A vessel holding course while energizing radar knows exactly what it is doing. Another hail goes out, calm, direct, unanswered. The carrier strike group does not scatter. Escorts keep their spacing. Formation discipline stays intact. There is strength in refusing to react too soon. Sudden movement invites error. Predictability in moments like this becomes its own form of pressure. And that pressure builds. The Iranian warship is now well inside a range where coincidence is no longer a believable explanation. If this were navigational error, it would have corrected already. If this were a misunderstanding, someone would have answered the radio. Neither happens. The intent is no longer vague. It is taking shape. Long-range cameras record everything. The timestamp advances without mercy. The footage may never appear on television, but it will matter later, when questions are asked, when statements are made, when the story is retold by people who were not there. Then the forward gun on the Iranian ship moves. Only slightly, not enough to lock on, just enough to be noticed. That movement goes into the log. On the American side, nothing mirrors it. No weapons turn back, no launch systems activate, no sudden display of force. Restraint is not uncertainty, it is discipline. And discipline in moments like this has weight all its own. Inside the CIC, a quiet exchange confirms what everyone already knows. This is no longer shadowing. Agreed. Shadowing stays parallel. Shadowing keeps distance. Shadowing answers the radio. This is something else. The helicopter detachment is notified but not launched. Pilots move to standby, helmets on. Rotors still. Presence is prepared, not displayed. The threshold has not been crossed yet, but everyone knows how close it may be. The Iranian ship holds speed, then pushes harder. 26 knots. That places it near the edge of a comfortable operating margin. In these conditions, it is spending fuel to stay on this line. Spending margin. Spending options. Above it all, the carrier never wavers. From this angle, the geometry is unmistakable. One ship pressing forward, one ship holding steady. Every mile closed without a reply tightens the pressure. Not around the carrier, but around the story the approaching vessel is trying to create. If it turns away now, the record will show everything. If it keeps coming, the record will show even more. Then the Iranian radar sweeps again, stronger this time. The electronic warfare team records every detail, frequency, pattern, dwell time. Each emission is captured, classified, and stored. The data is building faster than the tension, and data stays long after the moment passes. The sea is still calm, the sky is still clear. Nothing detonates, nothing is launched. Yet intent has moved beyond uncertainty and into something unmistakable. On the bridge, the captain finally speaks. Not louder, not harsher, just exact. Maintain course, continue recording. Because whatever comes next, this moment will shape all of it. The approach is no longer something to interpret. It is a decision already unfolding. At 5:31, the geometry tightens beyond tolerance. The Iranian warship keeps closing, now well inside the range where reaction time matters more than intent. At this distance, even the smallest course correction carries weight. Every degree means something. Every knot is read. The closest point of approach updates again. Smaller. This is no longer a simple closing line. It is controlled, deliberate motion. The Iranian ship shifts its heading just enough to keep the carrier directly ahead. Not parallel, not offset, but centered. That adjustment is logged immediately. Inside the Combat Information Center, the track is elevated again. Sensors stop treating the contact like background traffic and begin reading it as an actively maneuvering vessel. The system does not need to label it hostile. It only needs to recognize that the other ship is now shaping the encounter. Iranian radar emissions intensify. Power rises, sweeps tighten, repetition increases. Still not a fire control lock, but close enough that the distinction is starting to lose meaning. This is the stage where intent is no longer guessed at, it can be measured. On the bridge, the carrier's speed does not change. Its course stays fixed. This is not stubbornness, it is control. Predictability removes ambiguity and leaves the approaching ship with fewer and fewer options. Any further escalation now belongs entirely to the vessel pressing forward. A third hail is sent, shorter this time, more direct. Silence. But now that silence feels different. Earlier, it suggested uncertainty. Now it feels like pressure. The Iranian ship is no longer merely ignoring the radio. It is refusing it. And that difference matters. On the forward deck of the Iranian vessel, activity increases. Crew spacing widens. Individuals move closer to the rail. Not casual, not rushed, ready. The forward gun remains unmanned, but uncovered. Capability is being displayed without being activated. That decision is documented. At 5:34, the carrier's helicopter detachment receives the order. Stand by to launch. No alarms, no announcement, just movement. Pilots step onto the deck. Rotor crews move with disciplined efficiency. The blades remain still. The helicopter does not lift, not yet. And that choice matters as much as lifting would. It says, prepared, not provoked. The Iranian ship continues forward. Distance now compresses so quickly that the plot updates feel almost continuous. Closest point of approach is no longer theoretical. It is imminent. Inside the CIC, a calm voice cuts through the steady flow of data. Contact is maintaining intercept geometry. The phrase lands hard. It means the approach is being actively managed, not passively allowed. It means someone on the other bridge is seeing the same numbers and deciding not to break away. Then the helicopter powers up, not suddenly, not theatrically, methodically. Rotor wash rolls across the deck, lifting spray and sending a clear signal across the water. This is not an overflight. It is not intimidation. It is controlled presence, measured, lawful, impossible to miss. The helicopter lifts and holds low and offset, staying within American formation space. It does not close on the Iranian ship. It does not aim weapons. Cameras activate, sensors focus. The aircraft becomes an extension of the record itself. The Iranian radar reacts. Another sweep. Slightly faster, slightly stronger, logged. Through the helicopter's optics, the Iranian bridge is now clearly visible. Windows reflecting light, figures moving inside. The ship's course remains unchanged. No flags are raised, no lights flash, no signals are offered. The carrier group still makes no move that could be framed as escalation. No change in speed, no turn, no visible weapon movement. That restraint applies more pressure than any aggressive move could. At 5:38, the Iranian ship reaches the edge of an invisible boundary, the point where accidents stop sounding credible. From here, any collision would demand an explanation the data would not support. The helicopter's laser designator activates. Not to burn, not to threaten. A steady green point settles briefly across the Iranian bridge windows. Non-lethal, non-aggressive, impossible to miss, a message without words. Then the broadcast follows, calm, clear, and recorded. You are operating unsafely. Alter course immediately. Repeated in English, then in Farsi. For the first time, movement on the Iranian bridge changes. Figures shift 1 step forward. Another turns away from the glass. The forward wake shortens slightly, not enough to break off, but enough to reveal hesitation. The tension has reached its highest point. Nothing has been launched. Nothing has locked. Nothing has crossed the formal boundary. But the encounter has narrowed to one question. Who turns away first? And at this distance, turning away is not weakness. It is survival. At 5:42, the first visible change appears. Not a turn, not a radio call. A small awake. It is subtle, nearly impossible to catch unless you are already watching for it. But the helicopter's sensors catch it immediately. The white water behind the Iranian ship shortens. Throttle eases. Speed begins to fall by degrees. 26 knots becomes 24. That change is logged. The course, however, still does not shift. The bow is still pointed toward the carrier group, but the aggression has drained out of the water. This is no longer a direct push forward. It's a calculation. How to disengage without making it look like a retreat. On the Iranian deck, movement shifts. Personnel step back from the rail. One figure leaves the forward gun mount. Another turns inward and disappears below the bridge line. Nothing dramatic, just controlled, defensive repositioning. The helicopter holds its place. No advance, no pursuit. Its presence stays constant, steady. Cameras keep recording. The laser is off now. The message has already been delivered. At 5:44, the Iranian ship reduces speed again. 22 knots. The bow settles slightly as pressure eases. The wake narrows. The water between the ships stops tightening and begins slowly to stabilize. This is the turning point. On the carrier's bridge, no one reacts outwardly. No relief, no conversation. Turning points are delicate. Pressure stays in place until separation is undeniable. Then comes the first lateral adjustment. 2 degrees, then 3, a subtle drift away from the carrier's center line. Almost hesitant in how slight it is, but it matters. That change is recorded with the same precision as the earlier acceleration. For the first time since initial contact, the geometry shifts. No longer an intercept, now a near-parallel track. Still close, still visible, but no longer closing. The radio breaks its silence. A voice comes through, controlled, formal, carefully neutral. United States naval vessel, we are conducting routine patrol operations in proximity to Iranian waters. Every word is chosen. No apology, no acknowledgement of unsafe maneuvering, no recognition of transit rights, just enough to maintain position without conceding ground. The response from the carrier is immediate and exact. You are operating in international waters. Your actions are being recorded. Maintain safe separation. Nothing more. No argument. No escalation. The helicopter remains overhead for another minute, not because it has to, but because presence reinforces clarity. The Iranian ship continues drifting laterally, increasing distance meter by meter. Speed drops again, 19 knots. The forward gun is now fully covered. Deck activity quiets. The bridge windows reflect only sky. This is disengagement. Careful, deliberate, observed. At 5:48, the closest point of approach begins to expand. That single number confirms what is already visible. The window of risk is closing. The moment that could have turned into something more has passed. The helicopter receives the signal to return. No rush, no abrupt movement. It climbs smoothly, banks away, and heads back toward the carrier. Sensors remain active until the final moment. Nothing is missed. On the Iranian ship, one last gesture appears. A figure raises an arm, palms open. Wordless, maritime, universal. The carrier group does not respond. Professional distance is maintained. By 5:50, separation is no longer symbolic. It is real, 6 nautical miles and growing. The Iranian ship now runs parallel, no longer pressing, no longer testing. The sea returns to stillness, but the record does not. Every emission, every course change, every second of silence. This was not a show of force, not a standoff resolved by weapons. It was a confrontation settled at the edge, where discipline mattered more than dominance. On the bridge, the captain watches the track move farther away, then a single nod. Resume normal operations. Nothing escalated, and that was the objective. By 6:02, separation is complete. The Iranian warship holds a steady parallel course, distance increasing with each minute. Its speed stabilizes. Its radar profile softens, returning to standard navigation levels. The forward deck is quiet now. No visible crew, no activity near weapons. From the carrier's bridge, the track is downgraded. Not erased, not ignored, simply filed. The helicopter settles back onto the flight deck without ceremony. Rotors slow, systems secure. But the data keeps flowing. Every second of footage, every emission pattern, every maneuver is already stored, mirrored, preserved. Nothing about this encounter ends when the ships move apart. On the surface, the ocean looks unchanged. Calm water, clear horizon, no smoke, no debris, no signs anything ever happened. To an outside observer, it would seem like nothing at all took place. Inside the ship, that illusion doesn't exist. The Combat Information Center begins its quiet follow-up. Timelines are rebuilt to the second. Radar data aligns with visual frames. Communication logs are cross-checked against maneuvering tracks. The story comes together without interpretation. Simple, direct. An Iranian warship accelerated toward a carrier group. It ignored repeated calls. It activated radar systems while closing distance. It reduced speed only after sustained presence and documentation. No extra language needed. There are no celebrations, no raised voices, no sense of victory. Professional crews do not celebrate moments that could have gone the other way. They acknowledge the outcome and move forward. The carrier never altered course. That detail matters. A course change would have reshaped the entire situation, introducing ambiguity, opening space for different interpretations. Holding steady kept responsibility exactly where it belonged. As the Iranian ship fades into the distance, its wake flattening into the surrounding sea, the carrier group returns to rhythm. Aircraft operations resume, escorts maintain formation, watches rotate. The day continues, but the moment does not disappear. In modern naval operations, restraint is not passive. It is active, intentional, and documented. The absence of force does not mean the absence of consequence. It means the consequences shift from action to record, from movement to analysis. Every Navy understands this. What happened during those 45 minutes will not be remembered for what was used. It will be remembered for what wasn't. Because in that narrow space between signaling and escalation, outcomes are decided not by size or speed, but by discipline. The Iranian ship approached believing proximity alone carried weight. It left having learned that proximity works both ways, that being seen, measured, and recorded can carry its own pressure. The carrier group did not issue statements. It did not broadcast threats. It did not escalate. It simply let the facts stand. By 6:30, the contact is no longer relevant. Distance has erased urgency. The track drifts to the edge of the display and disappears beyond the curve of the Earth. But the record remains. For the crew aboard the carrier, this was not unusual. It was a reminder. Modern naval power is not just about weapons or aircraft. It is about control, of space, of timing, of escalation. The most dangerous moment passed without a sound because everyone involved understood exactly where the line was, and one side chose not to cross it. No shots, no damage, no statements, just a carrier holding its course in open water, and a warship turning away, carrying a version of the story it will never fully tell. That's how some confrontations end, quietly.